in a Mercury retrograde. These things are to be expected.
I agree 100%. Don, do you want to? We're live. You want to take over?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Welcome everybody to a very special episode of the Typical Skeptic After Dark. This is going to be the After Dark show with Rob Kalil and Dan Armstrong, and then last minute but never last in line, Tommy Edwards joined on, but we had some technical difficulties, and Rob was gracious enough to stream it directly from his channel. So we just collaborated and called it the Typical Skeptic After Dark. It's going to be a really interesting show, and for me, it's my season finale of my first season of the After Dark show, and it's been amazing, and I cannot thank you guys enough for your help in my first season, because you've all helped me in some way, shape, or form. So this has just become a very fortuitous opportunity for me to thank you guys on a personal level while we're here as well.
You're welcome, Don. I just want to say you got two heavy hitters for your last show of the year, Dan Armstrong and Tommy Edwards. You can't get a better guest than that. I love having them on my show anytime. They're two of the best podcast guests you can literally get, I think, and I stand by that word. So I'm happy to be here with you guys.
Thanks. Yeah. No, I'm excited to be with you guys too, and talk with you tonight. It's a nice crew of people, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So what are we starting out with here, Don and Rob?
Well, like Rob had suggested, and he's actually had some personal experience with it himself, is let's go for the hot button issue really quick, is all of the drones and sightings over the U.S., well, around the whole world. Like Sandra D. Densky posted, like, there's sightings of these crafts and orbs and whatnot everywhere. So what is your guys' take on it? I have my own opinion, and I'll get to that, but what do you guys think? I guess, Rob, you've actually seen one, so let's start with you.
Yeah, I saw one yesterday. I know Tommy thinks they might be like domestic drones or DoD tech, which they could be. But what I saw was very strange, and they're meant to look that way, But I got what remember, Dan, you asked me earlier, you were like, what kind of feeling did you get from it? And I'm glad you said that, Dan, because I got a really unsafe feeling. I didn't feel. It wasn't like it was like my galactic brothers coming to greet me. I felt like really uneasy, and I automatically got worried. I was like, what the hell is this? And then I started thinking, why are these things showing up all over the world? You know what I mean? And why is the U.S. allowing them to fly in our airspace so easily? Unless we can't do anything. I mean, there's so many questions to be asked. Like, it doesn't make sense that these things are just able to come into our airspace seamlessly, and they're just cruising around like it's nothing. The one yesterday was flying like maybe, not that fast at all. Like it was doing like a cruise speed. You know what I mean? I was like, this is insane. So I'm kind of like lost. I don't know what it is. I mean, it's there's a lot of questions. What do you guys think, Dan and Tommy?
Yeah, you go ahead, Tommy.
I feel like it's a psyop, and it's prepping, I guess, the world for autonomous technology that's AI driven. It's tapped into 6G, as they're rolling out the Internet of Things, which is us. That's something that the DoD directive 3000.9 that just came out, declared American citizens combatants and essentially the enemy, and opened us up to assassination by autonomous AI driven weapon systems.
Wow.
And we can look at the preceding things, like this was all stepped up, like say in the Obama years, a lot with aerial drone assassinations, sort of normalizing and creating a legal framework and starting this thing of enemy combatants and whatnot. So you could see that perhaps there's the assumption and presumption going on that all people are potential enemy combatants, which then makes it legal. Yeah, so I think that's an interesting take on it. I mean, I think for a lot of the people, they look at it and see stuff that definitely looks a lot more man-made, so to speak, more than anything. However, at the same time, we know that there's a lot of cloaks and holograms and subterfuge with UFOs as it is to appear as black helicopters, airplanes, etc. So the idea that they're sort of pretending to be drones or pretending to be to whatever, it's not really well established. And at the same time, I don't think we should preclude the fact that, let's say there was a legitimate phenomenon going on in some ways, that there wouldn't be a muddying of the waters. I was talking with James Bartley about that the other day. In other words, launching their own stuff into the mix just to add to
Yeah.
the general sense of confusion and chaos. So before people worry about is it right or wrong, I think it's good to sort of look at that a bit of that landscape of what it's set up against. And then on top of it, I mean, the other thing that's really interesting is just the timing, right? Because we're in a very sensitive period towards a transition, and it's sort of a question of are they pulling out all the stops in the few weeks that are remaining before the transition takes place? Or is it a prelude to what's going to happen when the transition takes place? And more of this is going to intensify. I don't know.
So I got to tell you guys one
You
more thing that I saw tonight that it definitely looks like it wasn't from this world. So I was going to go to the dollar store real quick just to get some water because I wanted to get some alkaline water just to have some water, and like it's cheap there, right? You know, you can get plus you can get a couple snacks or whatever for like $10, and like we, so I'm like walking up the street, and I was trying to see if I could see the drones, right? And I see this thing, and it looks like a real UFO, like some Jaime Maussan straight out of Mexico shit. If Dan, you know what I'm talking about, like where
Yeah,
it looks like a weird design, and it's moving all kinds of different ways. Like it didn't really have a shape, or it didn't
okay,
really have
right,
any kind of like solidity to it, and
right.
it was
Which is
moving
very
in weird
different. I
ways.
just want to point out, Rob, from majority of what's being called drones, which a lot of it
Yeah,
does sort
yeah,
of
it was. And then
appear
listen to
and
this,
look
how
like
crazy
drones or
this was.
large ones.
There, yeah, there was three of them in a line, Dan. And when I pulled out my phone to try to record it, it jammed my phone. It made my
Mm,
phone like I couldn't see through the thing to film it. I don't know
right.
how they could even do that. Like
Easy.
it's
I get that.
You've covered enough UFO stories in time too to know, and to know that jamming of electronics is extremely easy. And I think that's probably the first stuff that they reverse engineer, is to do things like the electronics jamming and that. I don't know. What do you think, Tommy? Because I
I
like
think
your thing with the Internet of Things and everything else, looking at as DoD. I think there's a lot to unpack with that.
I think that as far as like the jamming your phone thing, I mean, I routinely deal with like if I'm trying to document, some street theater or something going on in my targeting,
Mm,
like suddenly the phone won't focus specifically on like a license plate,
right.
and and it's just an odd phenomenon. Everything else is in crisp focus, So that's something that, yeah, probably not that hard. And like I got things that jam my security cameras, and it's like it covers the bitmap wherever the movement is with earlier pixels from earlier shots.
Right.
So
So, in other words, it almost sounds like a type of augmented reality is being used on your phone, where there's a layer, an interface layer, showing up what you see versus what the camera sees versus
sure,
this intermediary that's playing around with it, if you
sure,
follow me,
yeah,
you know?
yeah, and through my
yeah, yeah.
operating system.
But you very much believe there's a phenomena though, Dan, right? Like you've had encounters with reptilians and like,
Oh yeah,
but you're
and
saying,
I know that there's actual craft and ships, so it's not like, oh, they're arriving. I think there's a lot of different ways to look at this. One of it also is just that things like veil is thinning. People don't talk about this. Perhaps people are just going to be more prone to seeing all of these things, and we see a lot of people now doing their own recordings, and it's really incited a lot of enthusiasm for amateurs to get out there, just like yourself last night. I mean, you're like, oh yeah, everybody's doing it, I should try it myself. And next thing you know, you got like 2 really good videos, which I think outside of this phenomenon, you would be like, oh my God, guys, you wouldn't believe it. You would be like jumping up and down. But because it's part of this phenomenon right now, you're just like, I don't know. What do you think about it? It's like, well, they're pretty impressive, and it's too bad we can't show them right now.
No doubt, right?
I can try to do it on my phone. I can try to.
What's that, Don?
That's something I wanted to allude to is I don't want to oversimplify this, but okay, a few months ago or a year ago, I'm not good with time, the U.S. government went, yeah, UFOs are real. And the whole world collectively went, meh. Well, now they're putting on a display. Like I said, I don't want to oversimplify this, but is this their rollout of Project Bluebeam? And secondly, from what Rob was saying versus what Dan was saying about a lot of the footage, what you're seeing is like an orb, and what a lot of people are getting is drones. I think there's both phenomenon going on right now, and like you guys were saying, they're mashing them together to cover one with the other. Here in Alberta, we haven't seen the sky for more than like a day in months.
And over our house.
Yeah, like especially over our house. Like you cannot see the sky. We'll go weeks at a time.
So it also goes back into things like the, with the chemtrails and that in the first place, right? Like how much of it is trying to obscure our vision, also with like mind control agents. And part of the question has to be if simply these things are breaking down and not working the way that they used to. So people are seeing it. I don't know if you've seen, there's like even videos of people showing things like the sky glitching. Sky's like it's like a fluorescent bulb that's like sort of going out. And so lots of strange phenomena at the same time. But I think, the main thing is everybody wants to think that they know what it is. Oh, it's a fake invasion, whatever. Sure, it can be any of those things. But before people worry about figuring out what it is, I think it's a lot better to come up with like, different criteria. Think about it in different ways and keep your mind open about what it is, and let your intuition go with the rest, because I think everybody wants to come to a conclusion too quickly and sort of work with their pre-established notions.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Dan. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just want to tell you something funny. That I'm sharing this out right now as we speak. But that Robert Earl White, he had a channel for a while. I'm sure you ran into it. Or maybe, I don't know. He was doing stuff with Elena Danan, then he got into a big fight with her, and then he kind of dipped out of the scene for a little bit. Now he's back a little bit. He posted a picture of him firing shotgun shots at a drone. He's literally firing shots up in the air at them. I'm like, I don't think that's the smartest thing to do. No matter what it is, you don't want to engage it. I mean,
well,
I'm sure
that is the normal protocol, though, Rob. Right? When things are like unidentified vehicles that fail to respond, most of the time the response is to do that because it's considered a threat until proven otherwise, and to know what it is. I don't know.
Do you think that's smart? I mean, do you think we should be engaging them,
Well, process of elimination, right? You'll see if it even works. What do you think, Tommy?
Yeah.
I saw footage of somebody shooting at one of the drones too, using the tracer rounds to try to follow.
That was Robert Earl White. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's I don't think that's a good idea. First of all, it's illegal to shoot a drone down. And I mean, unless it's like obviously doing something nefarious or like weaponized in some way, and you're trying to fight for your life. I don't think that would hold up in court as far as like the aviation laws and stuff. But yeah, it's
Yeah, but there could also be a question if it's just for reconnaissance. That's just as much considered a threat, right?
Sure. But reconnaissance. I mean, we don't allow foreign reconnaissance vehicles over our airspace in the United States, especially near military facilities. I think it's more likely part of the military industrial complex, like a BlackRock operation or something.
Mm-hmm.
Just from their timeline and some intel that I've gathered over the last year or so from a friend who had a really disturbing conversation with one of their employees.
Okay.
Kind of a disclosure: the guy got drunk and just started, talking.
What happened?
Well, he's talked about how they're using an underground facility here, where the place I was programmed as a kid as an HQ. It's inside the Rapid Army Ammunition Plant, which is the largest munitions manufacturer in the United States, and it's one of the main employers here in this area. But, and they own Bay Systems, which runs the plant and runs the operation and stuff. And they just had during Hurricane Helene, they lost a bunch of barrels of toxic waste that just kind of floated off. That's one of the things that came to light that they were doing was storing, toxic waste from other states and stuff, and some of the underground facilities there, and stuff. Just it's right on the river plain. So, but also that he disclosed that they were responsible for like Hawaii, like the Maui fires and the Paradise, California fires, and just general depopulation, monarch programming in mass, and directly in specific individuals. They're looking to scrub Appalachia of people. One of the things that was well before Helene and the the whole Western North Carolina, East Tennessee, biblical flood.
Well, those people are very self-supporting, right? And have a strong culture and ties that's sort of unacceptable for the plans that they want going forward, right?
It's where I'm from. Yeah.
Dan, I watched a really good interview with you and James Bartley, and I thought that was one of the best interviews I heard about, geopolitics, and especially referring to like China and maybe like some of the stuff that's going on with them. Can you talk a little bit about that, and maybe if there's an extraterrestrial connection to that?
Sure. Yeah, I just wanted to compliment what Tommy was saying there, but sure, Rob, no problem.
That was
Yeah,
amazing.
I think I hear you on that, and it's very concerning. I see that there's a war, and probably Don knows about this too, but there's really a war on rural communities occurring in a lot of North America at the time. I don't know about in Europe and that, but anybody who's able to be self-sustainable or closer to being self-sustainable and not needing to be on the grid, so to speak, those communities are being targeted. Like here in my province, I mean, there's been a lot of efforts since 2020 to cut off these communities, to weaponize the fires, to stop it during high seasons for tourists, and basically just slowly choke these places out economically with tourism and that. And I see their plans is to literally make there's big signs in these areas like no national park. Like the people are trying to fight the government converting all of their stuff into a national park. And so I think there's, this is the part with the green agenda to look at, this idea of like these cultural or ecological preservation zones and using it as a pretext for getting people off the land, like the people you're mentioning in Appalachia. So I just want to tell you, I feel for you in that. I've driven through those parts, and it's truly beautiful part of the United States.
Yeah, it is.
I was gonna say it's the most beautiful. I've been there. I've never lived there like Tommy, but like I've been through it many times because I live in Pennsylvania, and I used to go down to North Carolina for vacations. And when you ride through the mountains, it's like it's the most beautiful sight you'll ever see. It really is.
Absolutely.
It really is amazing. Like, yeah.
Pittsburgh.
But what I wanted to get to, the reason why I said China is because when you were talking about what was going on with your country, it seemed like that they had involvement in it. So like to tie it in with like what Tommy said, I guess
Canada is,
is it the New World Order working with China, or is it like the United States working with China?
Absolutely, Rob. I mean, who do you think built them up in the first place? You think
Yeah.
China did just spontaneously become the world's second largest economy because the Communist Party got serious about the science of communism one day and they just started producing and become an economic superpower. I mean, they were financed by, your old Wall Street boys and big industry, and they said, hey, there's a way that we can make you fabulously rich and ourselves in the process. And we look at this. I mean, the war against labor especially in the 70s and that, like they really wanted to decimate, like Canada, United States, Western Europe, we faced in the last 30 years, and it hasn't been discussed, but a deindustrialization. So that all that's left, I mean, in the US, there's still manufacturing, but it's almost all for the military industrial complex, right? That's the only
Yeah.
manufacturing left. There isn't actual other manufacturing. If there is some semblance of it, it's because governments are throwing billions of dollars at subsidies to bribe these companies to even stay in the country, right? So
Just
when
to
it
back
comes
up
to,
what you said,
Mhm.
I was going to say, just to back up what you said, they used to call Pittsburgh the Steel City, right? You guys probably know
Yeah.
that the Steelers,
My
Steel
hometown
City.
too is
All the
exactly
steel
the
mills are
same as
closed
yours that
down.
way, Rob. Hmm.
All the steel mills are closed down. Like there's maybe
Yeah.
one or two, and that's it. Like
Yeah. I mean, steel used to be, and I mean, and not to get into a boring economics thing, but I mean, it used to be like part of national security. Steel was such a critical resource. You couldn't really
yeah,
do much without it. So yeah, I mean, all of that's happened, and I mean, they've literally taken factories, equipment out from the US and shipped it to China on giant ships and everything, right? So, I mean, that's a huge problem. So like the big thing I was saying with James is like we this idea of like renationalizing again the tariffs, all of this is actually a really good thing because it's about like bringing things home, not relying on the giant global production system. um, I think it's a good step, that because centralization is the globalization model, right? Like the EU and all of these super PACs and everything going together into the giant pyramid, and being able to determine things on a more local level is really key because that's the only place we have a voice, right? We don't have a voice on the international stage. We have a voice. That's where we have a place to work with. And the international stuff is all about just carving these countries for the inside out. So, say, for example, Canada, a lot of the country is being sold off to foreign interests. So it's not owned by Canadians. And now even the workers are being imported from China, and they have their own exclusive projects, and they're sending through the pipeline so it can go straight to China. And all these things have occurred. There's a lot of ties. I could go into it forever on some of that stuff, but I mean, I think there's a lot more cooperation than what is usually given. What's that, Don?
And on that subject, even here in Alberta, like we're a province away, Dan's my main man over the mountain there. But literally, the last of the attainable farmland here in Alberta, like it's mostly northern Alberta, is slowly and quietly being sold off in large sections to be strip mined for lithium for e-vehicles, right? And it's being like you barely see it in the news. You don't see these sales in the news, but I recently just saw like thousands of acres being sold off to private, like you said, private organizations, individual. Who knows what these numbered
Foreign ones
companies
too,
are?
most of the time, right? Like let's
Yeah,
put it right. Like the water company is owned by some, Qatari company, like some place in the Middle East owns, the water bottling company. Like all these things, the highways are owned by the government of Spain. It's all been very internationalized. But enough with the politics because people are here more for the woo
yeah,
part of it. Um,
yeah,
and I think it's a lot more fun. Um, part of it you guys were saying was about like definitions for things like psionics and transdimensional experiences, astral things, and that. So
yeah.
I always love hearing more about what other people have. But I thought I'd briefly define psionics, and then you guys just go in. So I would just say psionics is just a different way of terming psi abilities. particularly from a military point of view, where those psi abilities were being used for practical applications within military settings. So when you're looking at things like DOD or anybody else in the military in the past doing the psychic research, though that psychic research and the science of how they were trying to understand that, you could call that psionics. But it's also used as a generalized term nowadays for various psi abilities, whether it's remote viewing, telekinesis, remote influence, whatever it would be, right? Bilocation, all of these types of things.
Yeah. And one of which I actually fell ass backwards into myself, and I displayed it on Rob's show because I just woke up and knew where I had accidentally meditated so much that I ended up remote viewing a bunch of military bases and found out their location and showed everybody on Rob's show. And like, these are the abilities that I think we've just become too complacent and reliant on the modern construct of society, and we just don't use them anymore. We've been dumbed down and stripped away. I think all of this is possible for every person that can hear my voice right now.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, and like, especially even with the transdimension, this is something I've been digging into, and I know like you've had transdimensional experiences. When I say transdimensional experiences, what I mean is like when you go to sleep or go into a meditation and you experience something in almost in like a time dilated state, right? Like myself, I'll go to sleep and I'll be in another existence of my conscious reality for days, weeks, months, even years. Like I left when I was 15 years old, I went to high school in another reality for 5 years and then woke up the next day and I was still 15 years old.
Sure.
Right. So I would just love to hear what type of other, I know Rob had a astral projection he didn't even mean to. He got involved in a hypnosis that he wasn't even there for.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How about you, Tommy? I'm curious to know
I
some
was going to
of
say
yours
that
too.
the chat's going crazy. They want Tommy to spit some hot fire. They saying like
Exactly.
that's literally
I
what they
agree.
said in the chat. Tommy, the audience is really wanting you to spit some bars here, some conspiracy bars. You know?
Yeah, but you know, like what were we asking? If my opinion on which aspect of it, the
So you can talk
psionics
about geopolitics or psionics or
No,
everything.
we were talking about the fun stuff, Rob. The all the like we were saying, the transdimensional stuff, the psionics, whatever. We can do geopolitics another day.
I'd never
it's late at night talking about that.
It's transdimensionalism.
Tommy was in the Stargate program. Sorry, Tommy. Go ahead.
I had never heard it termed that way, and you know, I identify as a different dimension most of the time anyway. So it's one of those things that like the sleep and then the intense, like vivid dreams that where I am in a total different like landscape, something not earthly for extended periods of time, and there's always like an epic like activity going on, and like really stunning backdrops, and like able to fly and shit, you know, and like it's not really a dream, not really a dream state so much as because I can wake up, lay back down, and go back to sleep, and pick it up right where it left off, and like it's weird. I always wake up really emotionally, like with emotional whiplash from it. You know, it's like suddenly being away from all these people that I care about, and have like deep emotional attachment.
Okay, so that's an interesting aspect, Tommy. So one way that I distinguish these things from dreams is, for example, you had emotional bonds with those people. Perhaps you know that you have a relationship with those people. Would you say that is the case?
Yes.
Yeah. So more like another concurrent life or whatever, that these are people you have relationships with them, a history with them. These aren't dream characters that are just sort of fulfilling some symbolic script that's playing out like a dream and how it morphs. This is stability. And would you say that you can tell that they have like their own independence of thought or something like this?
Yeah, totally. Like there's like there. I'm always like trying to find that person in my life here. You know, there's people, and it's like definitely its own independence. Like I was saying, it's also it's almost like I imagine it or I perceive it as sometimes as I'm a third person watching myself.
Yes.
Going through this, but feeling what I'm the person I'm watching is feeling, that like the sensations, and it's it's kind of bizarre, but it's something that I've experienced most of my life. And I would say one of my earliest would be, still in preschool.
Sure.
I first had something that was profound like that really stuck more than just a dream.
Most definitely. That I think that put it really well, because and sort of like what Don was getting to there as well about, I call them like parallel lives. Rather than focusing on past or something else, they're just parallel lives. They're a different life of whatever variety, right? And now, because a lot of times when people talk about some of this, it's like gets focused that everything's SSP. But what I think is interesting, I'd like to hear you guys' opinion on it, because I think a lot of it is that people who have more of these talents are also recruited for those purposes because they're good at it. But I don't think everything that people do is related to that as well, right? So by that I mean, there's different things you're doing out there in the multiverse. So there's different lives, different missions, and some, I don't know if you feel this way, but sometimes there's a coordination between these different lives as well in some ways, like knowledge that we take from this one that can be used there, or things that we can learn from there that we can bring back here and share, so that, like, for me, the bigger thing isn't looking at, oh, there's an SSP or something. No, the bigger thing is we're multidimensional beings and realizing that we actually have parallel lives, and this is that we've been trapped in this idea that our whole life is just what's in this body and this type of thing. I think that's the bigger secret than just looking at it in terms of how these other things are framing it. What do you guys say?
Yeah.
I personally think Dolores Cannon, and exactly along the lines of what you're saying, I think Dolores Cannon summed it up best. It's like, it's not like your true self, your soul, whatever you want to call it, your energy, your kind of whatever words you want to use for it. It's not like when this physical form shuts off, that energy of what you are just goes, gee, this is going to be a long 8 hours. I'll just wait. No, it's got shit to do. It's out, like you said, in other realities and other existences, participating in other situations. And exactly what Tommy said, like it's not always SSP for me either. To get to your question, a lot of the time, like, I'm just living a normal life. It's just a different version of myself. And sometimes it's not even Dawn. Sometimes it's a completely different other being. I've been a woman before. Like, and experienced like months of woman, and had to wake up and I was like, what the was that? Like, I woke up and had to make sure, everything was still there. And I'm okay, I'm not a chick. Cool. Right? I'm back here. I'm Dawn again. This is great. But I experienced that for several weeks, as real as I'm talking to you right now.
Yeah.
That's true transdimensionalism right there.
Yeah.
So
like,
wouldn't it be more exciting that I think we could have more conscious linking with these other lives that we have, and then maybe we realize like truly how powerful we are? Like, I know, Don, you're a big fan of Rick and Morty, but like, look at Rick. He's badass, right? Because he knows how to like work with his multidimensional selves, and he uses it to like fight the bug empire or whatever it is, right? So I think that's the bigger secret that they don't want let out, is that no, you can actually have way more than you realize, and that's why we get focused on all this other stuff that keeps us suppressed instead, right?
Do you think that there's a way, and I've asked this question of a couple of people, do you think there's a way to select the consciousness when this body has to rest and your mind's going to go somewhere else? Can you have a predetermined destination? Like, hey, I really liked it at such and such. for Rob, he's talked on his show before
Well, that's what
about being a
Tibetan monks
farmer.
are all about, is training so that you can do that when you pass on, right? Yeah.
That I know, but I want to be able to do that when I go to sleep. Like every night, I'm like, okay, this is like tuned to a frequency. Like I'm gonna go back here and experience this reality because it's my conscious existence. I think we've lost a step, and we should be able to select where we're going when we get into an altered state.
Sure.
It's
It'd be nice.
it's tantamount to what they did with the Montauk chair and establishing a bunch of first of all, like a 0 point of reference, and then like a phone book through time and dimensions to try to like figure out how do we get there, how do we get back.
You have to create the concepts and the metaphors, I think, is what you're saying there, eh, Tommy?
Yeah, and the intention.
Yeah, exactly. Like learning how to project it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like lucid dreaming, where you take control of yourself in the dream. Kind of the same thing, but have that intention before you go to sleep, as you're going into your rest, laying down and doing like mindful meditation of it, and then like you were saying, and then applying the metaphors and the different application of intention.
Mm-hmm.
So
like
do you guys
I
feel
know
like
one way,
walking
for
in a
example,
lucid dream-
Don. Sorry.
I was saying, do you feel like walking in a lucid dream is the same thing as astral projection? It seems like it would be the same dimension, the same. So it's maybe just a way to, you might be onto something. I mean, it might be a way to astral project, like just realizing you're
Yeah,
lucid
but
in the
astral
dream and being able
projection
to
is
control
using
it.
your astral body, right? Like a parallel life isn't necessarily an astral projection,
Okay. Yeah.
right?
And a dream's a parallel life, you're saying, Dan.
No, I'm just saying there's parallel
Basically.
lives, and then there's things like astral projection. I don't know if it's the same phenomena. I wouldn't put it to be the same thing myself.
Yeah.
I think it's very convoluted, and I think we experience both of what, like, I think we do have basic dreams within our brains, but then, like I was saying, I think there's times where our energetic being, who is ourselves, it actually travels into other existences. Like I was saying, like those dreams where you're a farmer for weeks or months, you wake up and feel as though you were there, right? That's because your energetic being was taking part in that version of your conscious existence. It wasn't just a dream.
I
Yeah.
I
That's the
love
way I
the
feel. I feel
idea
like
with the
Go
Montauk
ahead,
chair
Dan.
though,
Sorry.
and the projections though, Tommy, because I think one of the things too that people don't look at is especially the powerful imagination of children. I think the actual creativity was a huge aspect of what was looked at in things like the talented and gifted program, and that when they were trying to find the candidates, you needed people who had extremely powerful mind's eye, a very powerful imagination, not one that needed a lot of instruction. So its ability to generate, only the power of the child to be able to generate something, I think was a special thing, because
Definitely.
I think it's a huge underlooked aspect to it all. What do you think?
I think it's part of the intelligence quotient aspect of just the ability for pure like imagination, like I said, without prompting, without much of a lattice work to begin with,
Beautifully put. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
I think that's a given, though. I mean, if you look into like Andrew Bashaga, like what he did, like he actually went, like when he was he was before Montauk, he was Project Pegasus, and he said they were using him to like, go to other worlds and other dimensions and stuff like that. It's similar to Montauk, you know what I mean? But like, I guess like, I guess you're right. That's why they use children, their imagination, it's just weird that the kids would
and the
time travel.
receptivity, right? Because you need to be also extremely receptive. A child's mind, look how well children can learn languages. They can learn it without even understanding grammar or anything. They can learn 5 languages. If you hit a kid when they're 4 years old, they could learn 5 languages at the same time and master it, because their mind is capable of receiving and processing things on that level. So I think that's a huge aspect to it all.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Definitely more of a sponge and pliable.
Absolutely. Look at who is the guy, William Tompkins, right? I mean, why was he recruited other than his mind wasn't contaminated with the academic discipline that was limiting his concepts of what aerial engineering could be? They needed somebody who had extremely unbiased point of view. This was very critical.
Definitely, I agree.
Yeah.
Not stuck in the in the quagmire of the status quo thinking.
Right. So, like the regular people, they're getting hammered the Newtonian physics and outdated theories of relativity and stuff, and they're like, that's the pinnacle of knowledge. And it's like, no, that's the controlled level of knowledge. And then there's the classified level of knowledge, which is way above that, right?
Yes.
So,
but then there's the innate knowledge, the innate wisdom and knowledge of the universe that creatives are able to tap into more so than the general public.
Yeah. And
can I bring up I don't know if you guys want to talk about this, but like this is a topic, and I have to bring it up. Like, I know, Dan, we talked about like we're in retrograde, but like it seems more than that. Like, it seems like something's going on. It seems like a lot of people are in a bad mood. A lot of people, like, it's like things are off. I know it's a full moon tonight. That could be, but like I'm talking. This isn't just like a few people. This is like the whole world seems off right now.
Sure.
Like. Yeah. Things don't seem right. I mean, like, do you guys
that
feel
happens
it too?
a lot
like,
of the time if you pay attention?
I mean,
yeah, sure. If I look at it in my personal life, it's not so good. But I think in some ways, there is a death of an old to make way for a new, and I think there's a lot of mourning going on at the moment as a collective species. We know we're at a pretty critical point.
The singularity, that's part of what's going on too. We're being digitized, between the wetware from China and the frequency, the Internet of Things, that we're being turned into it's transhumanism, and that they're putting everything on the fucking blockchain. I mean, human beings, emotions, thoughts, our neurological data, but also biology and the natural world too. That's the whole thing with like with the chemtrails and like the biofilms and stuff. That's all part of the equation. It's like the plot of like some supervillain, like plan to decimate, take over, and control everything. And it's so many different vectors. It's hard to connect all the dots without having a good understanding of multiple disciplines, and even then, it's like mind blowing to try to like figure out how what we can do to get away from it, to get out of it, to get it off of us, out of us. Yeah. I mean, did you guys see the footage of the drones, like dropping aerosol or spray and stuff? Yeah, that's another aspect of it that rings true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be that we have a knowing, just like animals have a knowing when there's a great storm or something about to occur. Perhaps there's a great knowing on our deeper subconscious level of like the situation is extremely critical at the moment.
I wonder what this is
people
leading to,
are the world is financially broke at this point because the trillionaires have been too busy vacuuming it all up for themselves.
Yes.
There's like we know, like the wealth transfer has all occurred. Like there's so much, even in the last 5 years, there's been more wealth transfer to that one top percent of the 1%, and it's really hitting people. And we're 5 years into this military psyop to begin with. We're coming to that point. I mean, we're really fatigued, and I think that's to be taken into consideration. And then on top of it, like with the stuff like Tommy's saying, it could be that they're just cranking up the juice while this is all occurring at the same time. and just cranking it up. It's like, let's just keep doing it. And they're like, oh, doctor, it's unsafe levels. You'll kill the subject. It's like, ah, we'll do it anyway. Like, I think that's sort of the situation at the moment.
And
I
they
don't
want
know
to.
how you guys feel. Hmm?
It's a huge
I'm going to
population.
ask you, and Tommy, do you guys
Sorry,
think
Tommy
this is
was
a
going to
last
say
ditch
though
effort by
there,
the
Rob.
cabal? Do you think it's
Huh?
do you think it's because like things are changing for the better, so it's a last ditch effort by the cabal, or do you think it's like we're in serious trouble? Like, what resonates with you?
I think we need to be on our P's and Q's. It's I think it is it's the singularity, and they're
The
everything's
convergence. Yeah.
everything's under the thumb. Like it's
Yeah.
and they have the technology now. They've caught up with the technology to be able to have autonomous, like ways to control us, even like just by weaponizing our own aura and the ions in us and around us as a way to torture us and for behavioral modification. That's another aspect of it that's occurring. And you got 1/3 of the population is completely hypnotized. Another third of it's like they're susceptible, depending on where they're getting the info. And now with this constant like broadcast of like frequency and different frequencies and stuff, that other third is also more susceptible or responding to it in a way that they never have before. And then there's a third of us that are like, what the fuck's going on? What's wrong with these people?
Right.
And we're not wanting to see it because it's too scary and it's enslavement. It's crimes against humanity.
Yeah.
And the preppers, they're sharp people. They've been feeling it. And then there's also the paranoia that's pushed through that. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And, like there's these weird rituals and the backdrop happening too this month. I mean, the Pope is going to be opening the gate of Lucifer, the door of Lucifer, breaking the seal, and they're opening all these special doors. I mean, it's not like, something that's never been done before, and he's going to hit it with his little silver hammer 3 times, and the masons are going to come in and remove the masonry so the portal can be opened. There's not to try to scare people, but it's almost like we have to understand as part of the apocalypse too, there is the revelation occurring. We're seeing it more and more and more in your face. And what they're trying to do and what should be looked at more is the effort to normalize really unnormal things.
You're right.
Right. Like, I think half of this stuff with the drones is just to get people used to it and just like, oh, it's just a drone, whatever. Just normalize it. Just like we learned during the psychological operation, how many things they tried to introduce and normalize it with people, like
Like
waiting
the Patriot
outside
Act,
of grocery stores.
the Patriot Act. Back,
Yeah, and all
remember,
those
not
things
a
that
lot
have
of some of the
happened,
younger
right?
people weren't alive for that, but me and you lived through it, and so did Tommy, and so did Don. We all lived through them introducing the Patriot Act. They tried to say it was for our safety, but later we figured out it was for a bigger control factor, right?
Yeah, it was
Obviously, yeah.
already written and waiting. It was it was published a couple years prior to that.
And
but sorry.
No, please, you go ahead. I mean, I think, people are like, why does it keep getting so bad? Well, it's because people aren't even taking these other wake up signs. Like that was supposed to be a wake up call, and people hit the snooze alarm. A lot of people did.
Yeah.
And then other things have happened since, and that's supposed to be the wake up call, but people are hitting the snooze alarm. And I see a lot of it's related to people's desire for comfort and convenience over the truth, and trying to, it's sort of like one of those Stephen King novels where the whole town conspires to do something like sacrifice people to some demon just so they can have a good life. It's almost like that's how our lives work. Like, it's just like, I just want to go back to the normal life. Whatever, I'll sacrifice the truth that the demon will just keep him happy or whatever. But it keeps getting more powerful, and it comes back. And that's what I think we're seeing now, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. Like, I've been aware that a lot of these things are going to happen for a long time. Through things that occurred in my life that were supernatural, and then in trying to understand those things through studying ufology and conspiracy, and but then there's like the point where it gets so overwhelming and so scary that you just got to like stop all that shit and go watch like Leave It to Beaver for like 2 months, and just like just go get back into the status quo, like full throttle, to not feel so freaked out, to calm the cognitive dissonance.
When I can I just tell you guys, when I saw that drone yesterday, the first thought that came to my mind was, the first feeling was like, and that's why I'm so glad you asked me that, Dan, because my first feeling was a very uneasiness, and I was like, holy fuck, man! I was like, what am I seeing? I'm like, I just stepped into Orwell's 1984. You know what I mean? Like what Orwell, like literally like the technocracy of like like it's just like, it was insane. Like I don't want to live in a world where there's drones flying over my head. You know what I mean? I just don't want to live in that world. I don't think that's,
I personally think that a lot of it is Project Bluebeam or the U.S. military, but they're actually doing it, like you guys were saying, to cover up something that's actually going on. Like here, they're just using chemtrails, how you can't look at the sky, but they can't do that on the entire planet, right? So they're kind of mixing in their own crap to cover up what's actually going on, because I've seen videos of drones like what you're talking about, and I've also seen videos of like blue orbs and different colored orbs just appearing. I think both of these things are happening at the same time, and one is to kind of be the psyop for the other.
Sure.
Yeah, when I had Courtney Brown on yesterday, he seemed to think that like these are all good. He thinks that they're UFOs. He thinks they're aliens. And he thinks they're here to, that they want to say hi to us and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I mean, I'm just skeptical. I mean,
well,
and I'm never skeptical on my
but
show.
it's okay to say skeptical, Rob, but you have to have criteria. Okay, what would it take to convince me, or what do I need answered to be persuaded into your camp of thinking? Like that's what I would work with if I were you. You could be like, well, okay, let's assume they're friendly. If that's the case, then what's the purpose of what's happening, or whatever you want it to be. I think that's what's more
You know what he
important.
tried saying, Dan? I don't know if you watched the
you know?
interview. He tried saying that they're having conversations with aliens, and he said they're filming them, like on their far site. And I'm not doubting him again. I'm just reporting what he said.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know. Like sometimes I don't know.
Well, you have to
no
have to
comment.
find out then. You just can't
Yeah.
be in the question mark zone, and just go with it. But when I say, well, how do you feel about it? What's important about that is not just like, oh, that's something I don't know what it is. That's scary because I don't know what it is. That's a different reason for feeling it. So when I'm saying, how did you feel about it? It's intuitively when you saw it, what was the feeling? Wonderment?
Yeah, and that was
shock?
it's uneasy. Yeah, it was shocking. Like I said, I felt like I was in Orwell's 1984.
But was it because you were like, I don't know what that is, and that scares me? You have to get into the very
No, it was more than that.
details.
It was more like, what the fuck is going on here? It's like there's something bigger going on that like we're not being told about, because when you think about it, like why are these things allowed to like fly in our airspace? Like like we've always been the United States has always been on top of anything flying in its airspace. Like, and now all of a sudden these drones are allowed to fly around. Like
grounded.
Except for 9/11 too, Rob. Remember,
they kept all the jets grounded. I mean, the military jets. They didn't scramble them.
Yeah, they didn't. You're right. They fucked us on 9/11 too, and then we know it was an inside job. Yeah, I'm not saying I'm not pro government anyway. I'm just saying like
no.
You'd think they would have some balls if it is something like, but it's probably a
the other thing could be
it's
a simple thing that they can't disable them, and they don't want to admit that they can't. So the easiest thing to do for the moment is simply to say, we don't consider them hostile. That's about as far as they can go. They can say things like, we know it's not another Earth-based nation, but they keep using this word too, this strange language suddenly, this nexus, the nexus of where they come from. Why do we suddenly use this word nexus?
These terms are
They
hilarious.
have
Like
to.
UAP, you know, like why UAP all of a sudden? You know, it's who in Nexus. Why that doesn't make any sense.
Well,
It's
what,
like
what
they
I'm
want.
saying though is but it's not just the words. You've got to look at how it's being used. So, for
Yes,
example, they're calling it drones. Well, how do we know they're drones?
Good, they're unmanned.
because they
Because they're unmanned aerial phenomena, which is UAPs.
Mhm.
Like,
Well,
do you
yeah,
see how the language switch occurs? How you can repeat one word and people will say, "Oh yeah, it's the drones, the drones, It's like, no, the UAPs,
normalizing it.
which is our new word for UFOs. So I'm not saying that they're extraterrestrial or anything per se, but according to the basic definition of the term, that's what we can agree that it is, right?
yeah.
And they moved away from flying saucer because there's Tic Tacs now too, and there's gimbals and
Right. So
you know,
you change the language is my point. So focusing on those parts tells you a lot more about what's going on than anything else, right?
Yep. They're good at changing the language.
Yeah. I mean, this is what we did during the new normal, right? Remember when we had all the abnormal craziness going on? What did they rebrand it? The new normal. So this is what happens with the language instead, right?
Yeah.
And so the question is, there's going to be more events going forward. So do we always pay attention and focus on the event that, like, is the eye of Sauron moves? Do we just change our gaze with it and look every time it tells us to look in that direction? Or do we just learn to sort of see past a lot of this stuff and just keep working on, like, trying to do whatever we can to keep ourselves going, grounding ourselves and working on the things that are going to help us? What do you guys say?
Well, I think they want us to keep our eye on, just like the Squawk Box, like you got that's the big distraction. That's the circus, They want to keep us occupied. I remember years ago when I first moved back from college, I was dealing with trying to understand like the abduction phenomenon, some of the stuff I'd experienced. But the first UFO that I remember seeing was 4th of July, and it's because I wasn't watching the fireworks. Because I turned around and looked over my shoulder, and I saw, and it changed direction suddenly, and zip off into nothingness.
That's a great point, right?
Yeah.
I always call it, look at the magician's beautiful assistant.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody's paying attention to the magician's beautiful assistant while the magician's doing his tricks, right? So.
Yeah. And it could very well be, like I had said earlier to you guys, it could be the next Miami Mall. Like that was supposed to be the big thing in our community and nobody really bit. Is this the next thing that's supposed to keep, like Project Oblivion, keep us divided and distracted? Like, because everybody is going to argue about this. The further it escalates, the more it goes on, the more it comes to like, this person's going to think they're right, this person's going to think they're wrong. It really is going to cause division within our little community. And I have a hard time not believing that's what it was put out for.
In part, I think it's also it's a shock test to see how people respond and react. React more than respond. Just like the War of the Worlds, I mean, the radio drama that people committed suicide over. I mean, lots of people because they presented it as a real invasion.
Right.
And this is more visceral.
And this is why I like to keep going back to it being, like people love to say the word psyop, but people understand we've been in the psyop. We're 5 years into this latest version of a psyop. This is a later game part of it. Everything about the technocracy early, like that we had from that psyop. I mean, that was a military-led psyop. It was not about doctors or this or that. It was a military-led psyop. It takes that degree of coordination between 180 countries in the world to do things. Who do you think they're doing? They're passing it along to presidents or something, or to militaries. Military is going to be the thing that's keeping order. And, I think that's a good point about testing people's resolve. Let's see how it is. It could be in their official rhetoric that we want to tell the public this, but we need to prove that the public isn't going to completely go and lose their stuff over this before we start to pull out the big guns. Who knows? I mean, we don't know. It could be that, ideal world, somebody like Trump's already sort of sent the signal, like, I'm going ahead with like disclosure, and they're like, okay, well, we'll try to prepare people as best we can, or try to prove that people aren't worthy or ready for it by showing this stuff with some simple UAPs. Who knows? I mean, just keep our minds open about what things can be, because it's just, again, like the same reason why those children are good candidates for things like the psionics and the programs is because they have an open mind. And that's what we need to keep as well. Not where we're paranoid and disempowered, but, we don't have to be concerned about knowing exactly what something is. We should just keep an open mind about it.
And sharing information that allows for new concepts to matriculate into the lexicon and into the greater intellectual fray, if you will. The tangible. Like, okay, so this is what this is. We can discern this much from it. But what do we do next? How do we keep ourselves safe, and how do we not disintegrate into chaos? Yeah.
Right. Maybe you guys are right. Like, maybe it's not a good idea about thinking about shooting these things down. I mean, has anybody even tried to? I know what I like with different UFOs. I mean, I work telepathically with them, right? Like, I've always done that with them. I've always noticed that there is a very strong connection between intuitive and psychic abilities and being able to see things like UFOs. And by that, I mean, obviously, things that aren't reverse engineered stuff.
Sure.
So, like, I think a good experiment people could even do is just be like, okay, or if you don't like it, put up your own declaration of sovereignty. Like, I don't consent to any kind of mind probing or surveillance or whatever. You know what I mean? And you can just like do that. I think that's where people can come up with their own strategies. Maybe it's not effective, but you got to try it out, and then you can report, like you're saying, Tommy, and like people come back, they share notes, and they do whatever.
Sure. I think
I agree with that too, Dan. Like, I really think like what you're intending to have happen in your reality is what's going to happen. Because even what Rob was saying about like, why does everybody seem so angry? I really think that's because of the energy that's going on in America right now. Like, yeah, there is going to be a transition in your political powers, right? And there's a lot of people that have a lot of different energies about this, and it's all butting heads. So it's going to feel like a very hostile environment. Like, on a personal level, for some reason, Spinja and I keep running across the most serene people we've met in the last 3 years. The last 2 weeks of our lives since the craziness has been the calmest they've been in the last 3 to 5 years. We're just meeting wonderful people, and everybody's happy and smiling. Like, we went Christmas shopping today in a small town, and I saw an angry person all day. Right? It really is about the energy that you're surrounded by that's being projected into the reality. Because I think I asked Rob about this. Have you ever walked into a room and just knew somebody didn't like you or wanted to fuck you or whatever? There's an energy that humans project, and each one of the humans is going to affect the one next to them, and it's going to be a bigger and bigger causal, like a chain reaction, right? The crappy energy is going to make things appear crappy, or if you're in a situation, it's going to be better.
I think.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that, but also there's as we're moving through the procession of the equinoxes, like we're moving into like a higher dimensional like reality, and you're talking about the veil earlier being thinner. I think that we're moving more and more into that quantum reality. And as we understand that the other tangents are closer. I mean, they're always right here where we are anyway. It's just we don't see them because we're in a different spheroid within us, within the
Well,
our,
probably because we've had a lot of mind control agents to block us out from tapping into these frequencies too, right?
yeah, that too, yeah. I mean, fluoride and just the belief systems hammered into to us through the church and through public schooling, and it's and anything outside of any alternative research is considered dissident, which is
Yeah.
how a lot of the targeting happens. People looking into different theories.
And how's it been? Because I mean, I think it's fair with Rob saying, a lot of people are in a rough spot. Some people are sort of seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, but it's still difficult. How's it been for you in terms of all the crazy woo stuff in your life? Tommy, have you been okay?
Well, yeah. I mean, I've been experiencing drones over my house and pretty much anywhere I am for the last 5 years. Since 2019 for sure, but maybe even before that, just being targeted. I've counted as many as 8 above my house that have their optic pointed at me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I could take a spotlight, shine it, and if it moves, it's not a star, and it's looking at me. Because if the optic's not focused on the spotlight, it can still see, but if you can't see it, they move it.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's me. It's 13 at my friend's house. Her boyfriend's also targeted. He was the head of the Navy band until he refused the jab, and they cut him loose.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
But
there's a lot of that. I mean, I don't know how you take it, how you cope with it in day to day, but I always think it's.
I try to ignore it.
Exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, you still have to get in your vehicle and do things like go to work and whatever, right? I mean, I wanted to.
So that bringing that up also, and there are things that happen like when I drive to work and back, and the electromagnetic field around me changes dramatically and becomes dangerously high levels when I'm driving, and I've had vehicles try to run me off the road. I have some pretty extreme targeting. So it's
sure.
I've been dealing with it for a while, to the point where I didn't leave the house today at all. I haven't even gone outside. Just there are days that I just get stuck because it does, and talking about like transdimensional and like. Now, I'll be thinking about something, and it seems like I'm in a totally different place, like almost like remote location, and I'm having a whole conversation or a whole experience with another set of people, and then I'm just sitting on my couch, and it's not it's not a psychiatric situation. It's just it's like a deep thought. I don't know. It's hard to describe. But I lose time, not in a traditional lost time situation, but just time goes really fast when those things are occurring.
It's almost like being in, and I don't want to make it sound like in a negative way, but in hypnosis, you're in a certain brainwave state, right? Like what they call a daydream.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that stuff too, with doing things like with the Montauk chair or similar types of things, worked on the same frequency, because that's one of the places where we can sort of have the bleed through from these other realities. We can almost tune into it. It's like if you're playing with the radio dial and you can go from one channel to start to hearing a bit about what's coming through on the other channel, kind of thing, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I feel like I tap in more into the psionic aspect of myself as a quantum projector. And when things are happening, I imagine myself combating it in a certain way, like when I'm being attacked through frequency, or if my wireless body area networks is being weaponized against me, Like I imagine myself like riding the frequency back to its source, and then pulling so much out of it that it can't keep up, and it overworks itself or overloads or malfunctions in some way. I've had vehicles like nearly wreck that were boxing me in, and then as I was driving away from that, suddenly had no idea where I was, and I was in my hometown. That was really frightening.
Now, yeah, I mean, this whole thing, there's so much it can get into. I would say, and I want to ask you now. Obviously, we have to learn to do it for ourselves. But do you feel too, though, that you do have protection of sorts from other beings or whatnot?
Well, I feel like it affects me. I feel like it affects my health. Like, I mean, like if I'm being hit with like say a directed energy weapon of some sort, like specific, I think LiDAR specifically, like my visual field will go smoky. Like everything around me, it seems like there's something's on fire somewhere, and everything's like just slightly smoky, and there's pressure behind my eyes. It also typically be accompanied by like a high pitched hum or multiple hums. Sometimes it's one constant and then like a pulse underneath it. But definitely pressure and sensation within my body. There's generally the indicators for me that something's happening, and then I can plot like an EMF, like tri-band, and document it.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people, nowadays it's like it's no longer required to persuade them about it happening. It's like they want to be in the solutions thing and the things that people can do to help themselves, because not everybody's always just looking to go out and have more paranormal things, but it's sort of like, what can I do to sort of batten down the hatches or protect myself? So, thank you for sharing that.
Dan,
I mean, that's
the
important.
Dan, I got it. I know you guys probably listen to my show, or you probably heard me say this, but like I've had something serious going on with me. I can't tell if it's targeting or entities or what, but I mean, Penny Bradley said last night she thinks it's a mage, like someone who knows magic. It's like sending these things to me, but it's almost like clockwork on every night at like 2, 3 in the morning. That's why I'm falling asleep during podcasts lately and shit, because like it happens every night. It's like some kind of like entities show up and it seems like they portal up from underneath. I can't understand what's
So what
going
have you
on.
tried to do about it?
I've got Priscilla to clear them.
Okay, but not besides her, because
know.
I've watched a lot of people on your show too, and I'm going to put myself in my teacherly role. What if people told you that it's good to do?
You said I got to learn how to protect myself, and I haven't learned. I
Right.
know.
So what's a simple technique somebody's mentioned to you?
They say you can surround yourself with golden or white light, right?
Okay, but maybe that's not the best for you to. Maybe I think something a little less abstract and visual, maybe a little more concrete would be good to begin with. So
Like salt maybe.
yes, exactly. I'll tell you, Rob, I went through a period of very intense targeting, and all I know is I tapped into my knowledge inside, and I was like, oh shoot. And I did, but without anybody telling me, get the sea salt and put it around my bed. Okay?
Yeah.
And I did that. So it's not okay to just focus on what the problem is you got to like be creative again about figuring out what to do. And it's not about, oh, I got to ask this person to find this out. Ask yourself, what do you know? Think about your ancestors. Your ancestors had that knowledge. You carry their DNA. Go in and see what you actually know. And things like, the salt technique or whatever can be very effective.
Here, also, if you put your hand in some warm water, you'll pee yourself.
Right. I figured things out. It was like, okay, there was like bad dreams and stuff like I had before in the same period, and then I found out a certain kind of flower next to my bed would help protect, sort of like a dream catcher type of thing, right? So you can create your own, like Tommy was saying earlier, these constructs. So sometimes having a physical construct and having your intentions with it, that works. Why does the salt work? Because I'm thinking, this is about purification. This is an ancient thing that's always being used for humans purifying a space. I'm going to put it around the perimeter of my bed. As I'm putting the salt in, I'm not just putting it down and going, geez, I don't know if this is going to work. No, I'm setting the intention. I'm saying, okay, I'm protecting this space. This is a protected space now. Nobody can abduct
Oh,
me from this
Dan,
space.
one thing I did
Nobody
that was
can do
proactive last
this.
night was I used binaural beats. I used one to clear entities. It was like a buzzing sound, and then somebody told me to use church bells. But then I ended up just staying up between 2 and 4 last night, and then I went back to bed, and everything seemed to be okay. Like I didn't have to call anybody or message anybody, So that did work, I guess.
What I'm saying
Like,
though,
I don't know.
it'll help. Anything like that will help, Rob. But it's about how much of your energy and intention did you put into that? Playing a
Yeah.
video gets a certain amount of something, right? And hearing the audio.
Yeah.
Going and getting the salt and then actually doing it and setting the intention as you do it is a lot more power than
Yeah.
something that's just
Yeah.
abstract and in the air. There's a certain
Yeah.
relationship about when the
Ritual.
interlopers do their dark rituals, they're doing a ritual for a reason because they know it's powerful.
Yeah.
There's power in the intention and going through the steps and everything else. Don knows this from his background when he was,
Yeah. I just want to chime in there too, Rob. You're familiar with Dr. Emoto, right? Like
Yeah.
what's
the guy with the water and the music.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Cymatic. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word.
Yeah.
But if you think that principle of cymatic, he proved that the energy and intention that you put into water actually affects the molecular construct of that water. That works about everything because everything around you is a molecule. Everything you're surrounded by can be affected by your energetic intent. So when you're shielding yourself, you're like, motherfucker, this is my energy. This is my space. This is what I'm projecting. That's the kind of confidence you need to protect yourself with. You need to go at it to know, like Remoto proved it, your energetic frequency can change the molecules around you.
Well,
And that's what you
I'm
need to
saying
be.
with your intention, though. I'll tell you one of the best things you can do, Rob, is clean. There's a reason why witches have brooms, sweeping, cleaning energy. When you clean the walls. You vape in that room all the time. Scrub those walls clean. Get it with something nice like some lemon essential oil or something mixed in, and rub those walls and set your intention to clear the energy in there, and it will lighten it. It does change the vibrational signature of the room, and a lot of things like that are good. Then after you've done all that, add the bells and all these beautiful things, the incense or whatever you're going to do, the infusions,
The ritual.
do a beautiful intentional meditation or prayer or something. That now I've done several things and I've combined it. The power of the intention is way stronger. If I had to get myself and scrub the walls and start to clean everything head to toe, think of the power of that intention, letting the clean air in, focusing my intention that it's cleaning out the dirty air, all the negative energy with it. All of that works in terms of changing the atmosphere.
And it's the physical energy that goes into it too that is amplified through the intention.
Precisely. That's why I said scrub those walls. Get on your knees and clean the floor. The more you actually physically put your body into it and do that, the more it will help. I mean, look at you don't see a big corporate headquarters looking dirty. All these places, you go to a skyscraper, it's immaculate. You go to any of these places, it's immaculate. Why? Because they know how important these things are. Right?
That's right.
Yeah. And there's when you're trying to manifest something through the abstract or through the quantum field. Yeah, I mean, there are tangible visualizations and stuff you can do as well as like the ritual aspect that you can do while you're doing the physical ritual and the energy ritual. It's like imagining or visualizing yourself inside a bubble of protection, or within a hedge of protection, like it says in the Bible. It's that's a prayer of intention, and it's like a compact with the universe that you're entering into. It's like setting boundaries in the ether and in all the other aspects of ourselves,
right?
That are beyond just the here and the now.
Right.
I've seen it work with different forms of illness. Like I had a friend in college who had she was diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer, and the doctor told her to immediately drop out of school, move home, and make end of life preparations.
Mm-hmm.
And I used the water, intention concept, the visualization, to explain it to her, and the quantum field, and how, at the smallest level of matter, the quarks they're just balls of energy that aren't really matter, that we can influence those with our minds, and how that if we step that up and use visualization as part of the ritual, then we can change anything. And it was gone when she went back to the doctor.
Yeah. I mean, that's like what my pyramid's for, right? It's focusing intention. I have the intention. It's just amplifying it.
Yeah.
Right. I just want to show that. But yes, I agree. It sounds so simple, and I know I'm not like some great I still am working through and learning this stuff all the time too. But I think those things do help, Rob, and it might be something like, shit, man, though, like lemon essential oil or frankincense or something that's expensive, or the sweet grass for smudging or something. But, that commitment of the financial commitment towards it is part of the intention that creates power with it. Right.
I know. My problem is I haven't had hardly any money. I know you have a lot of other people have issues too, so I don't say it, but I haven't had hardly any money. A couple people donated here and there, and that was very nice.
But Rob,
of them.
it can also you do with what's available, right? Like even if you just boil some hot water, clean the floor or whatever, just get a scouring pad. You can do it without that. It's really working with what you have. You can open a window and let that good air in. And as you do it, really set your magical intention with those things. And there could be that there's bad actors working with you on it, but do your things, but also you have people that can help you out with that. But I think the only reason you have an issue with that is, and this is the hard part to hear, is about boundaries. Because what is all of this like when Tommy's talking about the hedge or something else? You're setting your boundaries. Your boundaries are clear.
Yeah.
You can't be like, oh, but he promised he was a nice vampire, so I let him in the house. No. Right?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? So you can't be like, part of it, Rob, and I say this with love, is you can't be friends with everyone. And you're going to have to learn to have some boundaries with it, because people are going to violate your boundaries and your sovereignty every chance they can if they know that you're an open door. So I think this stuff about like protecting your space is a good thing, and we all need to learn it, because even for some of us, just going on the job, it can be difficult, right? We have to encounter different energy with different people through the day. And sometimes that can really throw us for a loop. So if you need something like a crystal or something to just help you focus your intention to feel safe and protected, or you do whatever ritual for yourself every day before you leave the house, I mean, I think that's just all what we need to learn more.
You know what? I just said, Dan, like, it's like whoever's doing this magic, it's like, fuck them, because they just gave me hours worth of content, because I've been able to talk about this though on a lot of shows, and we're helping people because we're teaching people how to protect themselves.
True.
So it's
that's a positive way of looking at it, Rob. You're right. You're right. So that's very good. And that you're already alchemizing it. Do you see there? Do you see how you've alchemized it?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay, great. So that's cool. I'm impressed.
Yeah, it's the perspective.
And Rob, Sage actually grows wild about 40 minutes down the road from here. So when the postal strike is over, I'll go get you some mullet if you can't afford it. I will go pick it myself.
No, I get paid from YouTube and my audio podcast on the 21st, where I'll have more money. Like I get paid from both. I don't get a huge
No,
abundance, but I'll have
but
something.
even still, Rob, like there's all
Great.
these things.
Yeah.
And so we just go with that and keep updated on it. Do realize it's probably a combination of things too at the same time sometimes.
Yeah.
But I know what you mean. I get stuff like that too. Like that's why I have to do a lot of the
Yeah,
energy
and I was just gonna
healings.
say, Dan, like I don't want people thinking I'm a total pushover. I'm definitely not. Like I can be an asshole, and I
Yeah.
can, I've
Good.
scrapped many times in my life. Like, and I used to live
Yeah.
a totally different life. I was into drugs, and I was really bad. I used to be a totally different person where I fucked a lot of people over, and I wasn't so nice. So like
Right.
where my problem is I think I've embraced my life in this community where I've become a nice person because I don't want to look back on my old life of like how I used to live. So
Okay.
so it's
But
hard for
there's
me
a
to
balance.
it's hard for me to
So
balance that out.
life, like Aristotle and all that talked about the golden mean. The golden mean means finding that very difficult balance. It's always a struggle to balance, Rob. So between the person who is a total jerk and the person who's a nice guy, the synthesis somewhere, it doesn't mean you're one or the other, but maybe you learn to when to pull out the mean guy
Balance.
guns. Okay, where's my red line? What's the boundary that's going to bring out maybe a slightly less pleasant form, even if it means I ruffle some feathers by doing that, right?
Yeah.
And where cases where you don't have to be quite that way to get your point across. So I think you can do it. You're a smart guy. So
I think
but
I can too.
it is good to explore though psychologically because it's that guilt. See, one of my main weapons that I'm always trying to target myself and destroy is, and because it's an alien concept, is guilt. And people might say, well, if you have no guilt, then you're going to be a bad person. Well, that's the religious idea because they put in sin and guilt and these ways. Now, you can have remorse because you realize you did something, or regret because you realize you made the wrong choice and you want to change it. But guilt is not designed for you to resolve it. It's designed to make you feel bad and to get you in this sort of debt relationship that you don't resolve. It wants to keep you stuck. That's what guilt does. And it gets people to act on the wrong reasons for doing things, and it creates a lot of problems. So I always examine when I feel guilty about something is a trick. Like I should be careful with that and say, well, maybe I shouldn't feel guilty. And if I do, what is the reason for that?
Yeah. I love this comment from Smooch Aftershock, and welcome, Smooch Aftershock. I've never seen you here before, so I'm glad the new people are. I started thinking, I'm like, am I going to have the same crowd forever, or are new people going to show up? So she's new, so I don't know. I'm glad new people are showing up. But her comment's great. It says discernment and association with whenever anyone needs us is Jedi level. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard, right? But we learn best by making mistakes. So part of discernment is also realizing that you're going to make a mistake now and then. And that's why it's good to not be too absolute in certain things, right? Keeping an open mind. Even if we do have a pretty strong idea about something, be like, well, anyhow.
Yeah.
That's why I love talking to you, Dan. You're so reasonable about stuff. I could talk to you all day because you always have such good theories and good ideas, and you always put a grounded approach towards everything, and you make every time I talk to you, you make so much sense, honestly.
Thanks. I think you guys do too. I like hearing the different techniques of what you have. I know for you, Don, too, it's not easy going out there back in the workforce and dealing with all the public stuff every day. What have you done differently to protect your energy or keep in a better state from what you did before you left that same job before? Would you say it's
A
a bit
lot of it,
different?
yeah, a lot of it is my approach to the job itself. Like I used to hate going downtown because it's a major city that I drive through, and like the apprehension, like I could feel the negative connotation, and even going there before I went there, and I constantly had nothing but problems. And when I reframed the focus, like this job pays me very well, this is providing a better life for my family, this is beneficial. I'm in mobile sanitation. I'll put it politely. I drive a poop truck. I'm cleaning so other people don't get sick. I'm helping people have a sanitary place to use a restroom. There's a couple of homeless people that often congregate at a couple of my stops that I quite often share my lunch with. And it's this completely different view of the general populace that they're not my enemy. I don't need to hate them. I don't need to hug everybody and go around kissing babies and shaking hands. But there is exactly like you said, there's a balance to it that you can take away and just work that into your life. And it's been pretty middle of the road and balanced except for a few hiccups since I started back.
That's awesome, Dan. Yeah. Tommy, did you want to add anything? You always have really good stuff to say too.
Well, kind of got bilocational there for a second. You're talking. It's like just
Yeah.
Had a lot to process, and it's this has been a good conversation. Like as far as like protection, like rituals and things that fatally optimistic. Like almost I don't know. It's weird. I try to.
Dan, you're muted.
Sorry, continue. I was just going to say, I mean, a lot of a panel, just like techniques of what we're learning, I think like I'm with you, like learn, try to do different things, especially things where we can do it for ourselves is extremely important.
Yeah, definitely. And I think sharing information is also.
This weekend.
Because I think too, a big part of if you're a TI or something, or you're going through an intense period of that, is sometimes, at least sometimes it's easier when it's more intense because it's obvious, so you know what you're dealing with. Sometimes when it's more subtle is harder. But, I think it's always important to realize that it's always a game of psychology. And like you said, sometimes you sort of have to pretend it's not there in order to get by and get through the day. And I know I always struggle, right? Like I don't like to bring that side always in the public forums because sometimes it brings the energy down. But I mean, I think it's fair to say, a lot of people, like I get a lot of the remote influencing in terms of like emotions, thoughts, etc. Like that's huge, and can make things very difficult. But thank goodness, like when we have other people and we don't isolate too much, when we have other people where we can share comfortably, I think. Yeah, well, I drink plenty of coffee, so thanks.
Well, I think he's joking, right? That's like why would I? That's like, did you guys, not to interrupt you, Dan, but did you guys ever hear the one that like nicotine's supposed to kill nanotech? I don't think that's true either.
No, well, there's you have to look into what it is, Rob. It's not just a general opinion without knowing it, and you have to look into it. The thing with the nicotine isn't just like you smoke. You might assume that, oh, if I smoke, then it's nicotine, therefore it's da da da. No,
because that's
different.
government issued. So like that's going to be bad too.
It's talking about using nicotine for certain things as well. And I mean, I haven't done it all, but I've talked to people who have looked into it, and it looks like there's some promising things available with nicotine that they're showing actually medically, that they can even
But
help
do you
people
think the
with some
cigarettes are
pretty
weaponized
severe
so they wouldn't work?
conditions.
No.
No, the issue is that's not the delivery method that works to have the health benefits of nicotine. That's
You're
all.
more like a tincture or like some type of different.
Nicotine gum?
Well, they were saying like even with the patches or something that they were showing a lot of promising results with, right? Or
Yeah.
nicotine as well, if you understand it's a nightshade, so there's also other things in the nightshade family, which is things like tomatoes, which are having a lot of the same properties as well.
Karen told us about that. I remember when she was on my show and for the Halloween thing. Oh, speaking of which, guys, I think I might do something for New Year's. I wanted to get everybody's opinion on it. Like, if you guys want me to do it, I'll do it. I'd like to do it because I don't think I'm doing anything on New Year's. So I was
Just one
thinking
last,
about doing something. I don't know.
Yeah, check it out.
just one last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we can maybe organize it a little bit between some people who want to share musical talents or other talents, and we'll just keep the clock going so it's a nice medley of people contributing. I think that's important because those are really fun. I really liked
Yeah.
it like last year with a lot of the people who came out. It was very cool, Rob.
Was it?
I'll make a link tomorrow and I'll give you guys the link, and you guys can invite whoever you want. And if you guys want to help me
And if
organize,
you're
we
doing
can
it
do
right, Rob, you should be promoting some of those products of the affiliates as something that people can enjoy during their little New Year's bash.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I didn't put any of the links in the description, but they're in every other video.
We
I've
can
been
have a toothbrushing party or something, since they seem to get so upset about that.
most of the products that I promote are like, I have Cosmic Nootropics, which is like a nootropics vendor. They have a lot of good like peptides and nootropics and
No, I know
anti-aging
that's
stuff
what I'm
like
saying. There's
that.
cool things that you could do with that, right?
Yeah. But I've been promoting them a lot lately because it looks like they have a lot of promising peptides. I like the supplements a lot. Especially like Matthew turned me on to like the Tudka and the N-acetylcysteine and Chanca Piedra for my liver.
And
I've been studying
Tonka
nootropics
Piedra,
and like
that
their
one's
effects for a
really
long
key
time.
for breaking kidney stones and stuff. I know from when I did that work. That's an amazing. It's literally called Stone Crusher in Peruvian. Like,
What is it?
Yeah.
very good stuff.
What is it, Dan?
Chanca Piedra, CHANCA PIEDRA.
All those
right.
products that I just named, Don, the Tudca, TUDCA, that's good for liver. It's good for my fatty liver, and it helps with gallbladder too. And then the N-acetylcysteine, everybody should take that. It helps with free radicals and it helps the
Yeah, it's
liver
an
as well.
antioxidant.
It's an antioxidant almost. I would recommend
And
those
it
three
promotes
to anybody, and
glutathione production.
especially with liver gallbladder issues.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They think that might be one of the root causes of what happened to me with my health scare there. So, and that's why I was writing stuff down.
I just wanted to see. I can't see properly there, Tommy. Were you pulling out your guitar? Not that I'm trying to pressure you, but I was curious. I
Oh,
wasn't sure
Trap
if you
House
were getting it
Cotillion.
out there.
Trap House Cotillion, that would be great.
Or I don't know anything. I'm always happy, but I don't like to put people on the spot. But if you felt like sharing something like that, that would be beautiful. Or another night would be great too.
Yeah,
Or
think
anything you'd want to play.
Pardon, Tommy?
I think it's pick it up and hold it sometimes when I'm as like a prop, just because something
Yeah.
between me and I don't know what to do with my hands.
That's good.
You know.
Well, we should create some really. I mean, it's some beautiful music. It's a wonderful way of people connecting. Maybe a nice way to wind things down too.
Okay.
I mean, I'm having fun talking with you guys, but what's more important isn't quantity, but just I think there was a lot of cool energy and ideas exchanged tonight. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, this
Worked
was
a
fun.
lot better than I I'll tell you, I wasn't going into it with the best of moods, but sharing in your companies made me feel better. So thank you.
That's what it's all about. I thank you guys too, because I consider you guys all really close friends, and I think we all need each other right now because I think things can get really
It's
weird
hard.
coming up here soon. I mean, we have so much stuff going on between drones and the election and foreign adversaries, whether
You
that
know
be
what's great
alien
about
or
tough times, Rob? They make great art. Tough times make great art and strong people. So,
yeah,
like you said about the thing that person did you a favor, that mage, whatever. Don't worry about it too much. You can call on me anytime to help you with that too. Okay?
yeah, yeah.
We'll do
Thank you,
something
Dan.
quick after, just a 5-minute thing if you need. Okay? But I want to
Okay,
hear
that'd be
Tommy.
cool.
I think it'd be fun. What do you say there, Don? Have you had
Yeah,
Tommy
go
on
for it.
before? I haven't caught all of your shows, so I can't remember.
We did one.
I haven't had him on this show, no.
We did Mad Chatter, and then
Yeah.
then your show.
After Dark.
Sounds
Round
great.
table show.
Let's do it.
Deep dark days that we're living in. Down in the hollow, sleeping with the dogs and living in sin. Well, it's a black Monday. I got the blues again. Caught up in the same old world, up the road and back again. Destination anywhere. Sick of breathing the same old air. Feel the mountains closing in like an acid trip on a cocaine binge.
Dude, you're fucking good, man.
Cocaine binge. Leaves are changing in the cold creeps in. 5 months in the cellar. Dark days, it's winter again. Destination anywhere. Sick of breathing the same old air. Feel the mountains closing in like an acid trip on a cocaine binge. On a cocaine binge. Cocaine binge. Black Monday, I'm black and blue again. Caught up in the same old world, up the road and back again. Destination anywhere. Sick of breathing the same old air. Feel the mountains closing in like an acid trip on a cocaine binge. On a cocaine binge. Cocaine binge. Destination anywhere. I'm sick of breathing the same old air. Feel the mountains closing in like an acid trip on a cocaine binge. On a cocaine binge. Black Monday. I'm black and blue again. Caught up in the tidal wave of emotion and I'm broken again. Destination anywhere. Sick of breathing the same old air. Feel the mountains closing in like an acid trip on a cocaine binge. On a cocaine binge. Cocaine binge.
Encore.
I
That
really
was
enjoyed
that was
that.
great. Tommy, you're amazing, man.
I don't know. Sometimes I'm thinking, screw the big fancy conferences. We just need to get a few tents and a fire going and listen to some good music with some guitars like that. So, yeah, Beaners and
yeah.
Beans conference.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Try think of what to play.
Look at this comment, Tommy, before you start. That Sovereign Cosmic Bounty, he says tight end dismantling target individuals. Because you're a tight end, dismantling TI.
I was a tailback. I've never tight end.
Oh, you weren't. What did you play? Would you defense?
Yeah, I played defense in high school, but I played both ways. It's a linebacker and a tailback.
You're a talented person, man. You know,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
really. Oh, he said T was Tommy Edwards. He meant sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. I thought
Yes,
it was
ma'am.
like a football reference.
Okay. Trying to think what to do. Okay. No, this is better. My little Lola, ask me where I want to be. I want to hold you, but I know it cannot be. Oh, Lola, you drive me crazy. Drive me crazy. And when I'm sleeping, see you in my dreams. I want to touch you, but I know it cannot be. Lola, 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 you drive me crazy. And down in Coca, your love light shone on me. You must forgive me, but I'm too damn blind to see. Lola, Lola, you drive me crazy. And in Miami, where you danced across the floor and then you left me. Danced right through the door. Lola, Lola, my little Lola, ask me where I wanna be, little Lola, ask me where I wanna be. Oh, Lola, Lola, you drive me crazy. You drive me crazy. You drive me crazy.
Love it.
Wow, that's amazing, man.
Well, that takes
Seriously
me down to
gifted,
my
man.
back to my college days. I mean, I knew all these people. You know Peterborough there, Don, and there's so many bluegrass singers, and that there at the time I always loved going to people's homes and being able to listen to live music being played. And Tommy, you just thank you for bringing that beauty of like a live performance to us. That was awesome.
Thanks, I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
it always makes the show. You know,
Yeah.
you're really good, Tommy. I mean, you're yeah, it's amazing. It's like,
I just think in this age where we're leaning on AI art and digitally constructed everything, like Tommy was saying, the wetware, I think, that the simplicity of the human body as an instrument and the analog music being played live, there's just so much that you realize we lose when we're just listening to recordings and that. So it was very magical. You have a lot of power in your art, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that's nothing that keeps me grounded.
It's weird, like, with humans, we don't need much to actually feel connected, though. Like, look at all of us. We're all scattered around North America at the moment, in different time zones, everything, but we can have that closest connection. Something as simple as music or sharing a meal or whatever. You know, we feel that sense of connection really quickly.
Yeah, I agree. I agree
think
100%.
It's motivating about how we need to really come together as a community too, though, outside of the virtual platforms, or at least learning how to make the virtual platforms less virtual and more like really in the moment. And that's why I think the magic can happen with the panel shows and the art and all of that kind of stuff. It's really good.
Visceral.
No, this has been good.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I guess we'll end it there. Don, do you want to end the show? I guess, or it's up to you.
Sure. I'll get everybody to give their links and their shout outs. I guess start with you, Rob, because you're co-hosting. So if you want to tell everybody where to get a hold of you, how to donate and help you with that, or where to get your products, because you have some amazing gear as well.
Trap House
I mean,
Reptilian.
I have a lot of good merch and stuff, but if you buy merch or if you use one of the affiliates, I won't see that for like a month. The best thing to do is like maybe join the Patreon. It's real cheap. It's like $3 a month. You know, I don't put out I don't hold anything back usually. I did a couple members only videos this month because YouTube was giving away a bonus, which I haven't even got yet. They said if I did 2 members only videos and I did 2 members only posts, I would be eligible for a $200 bonus, but I haven't seen it yet. So, but other than that, I try to keep all my content out for everybody because I know
Well,
a lot of people
I
can't
liked it
afford
when
it.
I saw you doing the members only, Rob. You should do a bit more that way. You got some good stuff out there.
I
It's
totally
okay.
agree.
Maybe I will.
Yeah.
I want
No, not
people
maybe. Do it.
to,
What are you waiting for?
Okay,
The
I
year
will.
3000 to roll around before you finally start doing it? New year,
I just
new
like to keep it. I
intentions.
like to keep it like everybody, so everybody can afford it. You know,
No, it
I want
doesn't
everybody
matter.
to be
They
able
can
to
afford
afford it.
98% of your content. Big deal. They can't have 0.001% of your total content. This is no biggie.
Yeah.
You
But I
know,
mean, as far as like, you're right, Dan. You're right. Honestly,
I
as
go to
far
the
as like,
lunch buffet.
the
I don't
best.
expect what they have at the dinner buffet because I paid for the lunch buffet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But like honestly, the best way to support the podcast is listen to the audio show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Spreaker, and then if you want to donate to my PayPal or Cash App. The links are in every one of my videos except this one because I didn't put anything in because I wasn't sure if this stream was going to work. So, but the links are
Yeah.
always in there if anybody wants to donate and thanks. And that's it for me.
Okay. Tommy, do you want to go next? Let everybody know where to get a hold of you.
Yeah, I mean, get in touch with me on MySpace, Tommy Edwards, Touchdown Tommy, or
Love it. Love it that you're on MySpace. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Facebook. I'm back a decade
I
there.
wish that MySpace
You
was
hold
better
it
than
out.
Facebook.
Hey, we can go in the way back machine to the MySpace.
I think it's more fun anyway. I remember it. I think for people who are artists and everything else, it's great. I don't know if you've also looked at Bandcamp, Tommy, but they're pretty cool as well.
Somebody set one up for me, and put my album on it.
Because
I haven't done much with it. I should.
I really like it. That I think it's a really good platform for independent artists because you get most of the money. It's not like the platform getting all the money, and people can listen to your stuff before they paid for it and everything. And it's good.
I had streaming everywhere at one point, and we went to re-release the album because for some reason it had a sundown clause in it or whatever, and but it's on all the streaming services and stuff too. And I understand that the band could you get more of it, but
Tommy, I'm just thinking, I'll tell you, the recordings are great, but hearing you play live, you should even just do some live concert tickets. Get someone to help with the audio quality to be like, concert level quality that people are going to hear. And I'd be happy. I mean, I'm thinking, if I wanted to spend a Saturday night, I'd certainly be happy for, a bit of time listening to some musical artists and shooting some money towards that,
Yeah,
Dan, I was thinking about something. What if we had a concert in the Discord? I don't know if Bryson would let us do that, but I mean,
Well,
we could
the thing
have
is,
a
I know
concert.
Discord is a pain in the butt when it comes to audio devices, but we could certainly do like a Zoom and people could get their audio tuned, but for sure. And I'm just thinking for like Tommy alone, I mean, like, I don't know if you would be too tired from doing a whole thing, but you could also even work with somebody else on it. But I'm just thinking I know I really like it, and I'm picky about music. I prefer something that's real.
Yeah, I have a lot of material. It's I've got to I'm supposed to do a interview and performance on NPR
Really?
next little bit.
Oh, that's awesome.
Appalachian Vibes.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
No,
So,
beautiful. Excellent.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, make sure you get a lot of if you get that, take a lot of photos and get a lot of official stuff so you can throw it up.
Yeah, I've been working towards that again. The whole targeting thing. I mean, I stopped playing. Pretty much, stopped keeping a calendar and playing live. At one point, when I was in a relationship with someone who was a handler, and was acting like it's before the gang stalk started. It was actually she had spyware on my phone and was using a burner with multiple SIM cards to make it seem like people were stalking me everywhere I went. I mean, I carried a 38 everywhere I went for like 3 years and didn't go out much.
For sure.
So, and now it's like actual people. So it between that and a brain injury that I had in 2018 that about killed me, put me in a coma. Had to like relearn a bunch of shit. But yeah, at one point I had a decent career that was moving forward, and then
Well, 2025 is the year for things coming together, eh? Let's intend that here,
like the Beatles
for
said.
all of us.
Yeah.
Dan, do you want to let everybody know where they can get a hold of you for your services? I personally
I've sort of given the project of doing my website for now. But yeah, you can email me, mrdaniel.armstrong2@gmail.com, or contact me on Facebook. Just send me a message on Facebook rather than the friend request, because there's too many fake things going out there nowadays. And usually if you send me a message and say where you know me from, and that's a bit easier.
Yeah.
To sort things out that way.
Sorry.
And all of my content is on my YouTube under Don Rogers at March Productions and Forbidden Knowledge Network on all audio platforms.
Cool.
So yeah, I got distracted with the MySpace thing and the joke.
What was your other links there then, Tommy?
It's YouTube 6072, and then Touchdown Tommy on Edwards on Instagram, I believe on like TikTok, and TikTok's different. It's Tommy Edwards something, I can't remember. If anybody's interested, just contact me, I'll give you that. But also my Rumble is Dreamcatcher33, and my OnlyFans is Touchdown Tommy Edwards. Check out some hot fan action. I got some ceiling fans, got oscillating fans, got some
Woo Train in there.
Yeah, it's diverse. It's diverse fan action, fan on fan action.
Yeah. You're gonna get Derek excited.
Yeah, whatever works. You can talk through it, and it sound like Darth Vader's dad or Luke's dad. Darth Vader. Yeah. I'm getting all of my movie mythology mixed up tonight, and social media.
All right,
guys.
All right, Rob. Do you want to do the final wrap up there, Rob? Okay. Thanks.
Go ahead, Don. Whatever you want to say. Oh, you're done. Okay. Well, thanks everybody, and yeah, tune in. I'll be back tomorrow. I have early shows all day long. I have 4 shows tomorrow, so it's going to be another great day. So, no, I love doing it. It's just a lot. It's a lot. I took on a little bit too much, so I don't know. Yeah, but it'll be fun. It'll be fun for sure. So I'll see everybody tomorrow, and
rob
thanks
a
everybody.
Starbucks on DoorDash or something. Shows to do. Yeah.
All right, thanks guys.